Hello, this is Vlad and a new story from my channel, Amazing Story. What's this? What are you giving her? Zakhar Viktorovich was shaking with anger and indignation. He couldn't believe the nurse had disobeyed him and allowed his daughter Elisa to have some herbal tea, beef borscht, and vegetable stew. She can't have any of that. I told you. No red meat, no vegetables, especially green ones. What kind of nasty stuff is she drinking? Olya looked at her host in fear, waving her arms and mumbling something. She tried to explain everything, but she couldn't. 4 years ago, from terrible grief, Olga lost her speech and never uttered another word. Her brain had simply forgotten how to speak, so now she couldn't explain anything to the domineering Zakhar Viktorovich, who wanted only one thing: to cure his daughter and get her back on her feet. Why are you all waving your hands around, huh? Yes, I know you're a former nurse, but that doesn't give you the right to disobey the doctor's orders. He said, chicken or turkey, with just a few potatoes as vegetables. And here you've set up a cafeteria with first and second courses. Quote, it said diet, no deviations. And if I hadn't returned earlier, would you have overfed her? Zakhar Viktorovich was screaming and still couldn't calm down. Alia lowered her head, shifted from foot to foot, and didn't know what to do with her hands. She put the spoon down next to the half-empty plate of borscht she was feeding Elisa and waited for the storm to blow over. Zakhar Viktorovich was supposed to return on Wednesday, but he returned early on Sunday evening. That's how the whole row started. The 10-year-old girl sat half sitting up in bed, staring blankly at her dad. It was as if she didn't care what was going on around her. When everything inside hurts, and her legs won't obey her. Does anyone care how her father scolds the new nurse? Let Alice scream. Why didn't you stop her? Yes, you can't walk, but you can understand what they feed you. You can say, no, I can't have that. You're doing nothing to build up. But I'm fighting and fighting for your health. Dad, I don't care what they feed me. But what Olya gives me, it doesn't make things worse. The doctor told you it's harmful. If you want to get up, you must strictly follow his instructions. I'll never get up. Everything is clear with me. At that moment, Olya moaned again and waved her arms more forcefully than before. Okay, that's enough emotion for today, Olga. I beg you. Pack your things and leave my house tomorrow. The assistant will give you your pay. The search for a new nurse will start tomorrow. That's it. You don't dare touch Alice. Goodbye. Olga tried to beg for forgiveness, grabbed Zakhar's hand, but he pulled it away and turned to his daughter. The woman burst into tears and quickly walked to her room. She lay down on the bed and sobbed even harder. How she needed this job. How happy she was that she could finally earn money and at least pay off her debts a little. And now what? She'd have to ask the management company to clean the hallways again, but they only pay pennies and it would be impossible to pay off the debts, let alone start treatment. How tired she was. And how sad it was that the girl could be helped, but Zakhar Viktorovich didn't believe her. Everything had collapsed, but not now, but 4 years ago, when Misha died. After that, she couldn't pick up the pieces of her life. Olga took out her duffel bag and began carefully packing her things. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her thoughts were far away. She had started working in this building a little over a month ago. She was placed here by her friend from medical school, Sveta, who had been working as a nurse in wealthy homes for many years and hadn't even considered returning to a nursing position in some state hospital. Olga, this is 100 times better, Olga. In the hospital, you have a whole floor of them. This one needs an IV, this one needs a shot, this one has a fever, this one is bored and needs to talk. But here you have one patient, and you're with them constantly. No distractions, and they pay on time. No, I'm not leaving the hospital. It's hard, of course, all sorts of things happen, but this is my place. I chose this job with my heart. You work 2 jobs from morning until night at this job. Your son doesn't see you. Mishka is already growing up without a father, and his mother is always at work. So that he has everything, I work 2 jobs. He knows his mother loves him, and I'm ready to do everything for him. I'll save up some money and we'll go to the seaside for 10 days and spend all our time there. We'll have time. I need to pay off the loans, and then I can think about a mortgage. I borrowed money for rent, for his personal needs, for his teeth, and other things. A decent amount has accumulated, all told. Olya was wrong. They had no time for a trip to the seaside, or for walks in the park, or for an evening watching cartoons. There wasn't even a second to hug. She was sent to work in the emergency room. Olga ran around all day, registering patients, trying to juggle a million tasks at once, and completely forgot about her phone. It was only at 3 o'clock that she sat down for the first time. She poured herself some tea and decided to check a message. She pressed the button. The phone didn't respond at all. The battery was dead. She meant to charge it this morning, but in the hustle and bustle, she forgot. By the time she found the charger, by the time she turned it on, it started blowing up with messages and missed calls. There were probably about 50 of them. Her cool friend Misha called her. Other unfamiliar numbers, something about her son. Wally caught her breath. With trembling hands, she dialed the number and heard, "Olga Sergeyevna, why can't I get through to you?" Misha felt ill during gym class. He ran and fell. I took him soon, I think to the intensive care unit. They said something about his heart. What about his heart? My son is perfectly healthy. I don't know. They took him to the city children's hospital. We're in touch with them. Olya, still in her medical pajamas, ran outside, got into a taxi, and rushed to the hospital to see her son. But she didn't make it in time. She couldn't help him in any way. Misha died in intensive care without regaining consciousness. The doctors said it was sudden cardiac arrest, and nothing would have helped him. Her healthy, blue-eyed, and always cheerful 10-year-old boy had died, and there was no way to bring him back. Olya barely remembered the funeral or the preparations for it. She sat by the side of the road, screaming in pain until she completely lost her voice. She hadn't just become hoarse, she'd forgotten how to speak. She didn't notice it right away, and when she realized it, she wasn't even scared. Was it really that scary after what had happened? Only 6 months later, a friend forced her to see a neurologist and psychiatrist. They determined that the muteness was acquired and had been caused by that same stress. They prescribed treatment, injections, pills, IVs, and said she could undergo an expensive procedure abroad. They'd probably help her there. Ultimately, Olga was left unemployed and with huge debts. She'd taken out some of the loans to buy her son a game console, a phone, and new sneakers. And new debts accumulated after she began treatment. She was forced to leave the hospital. Well, who needs a nurse other than my kind? She started working as a cleaner, but the little she earned was barely enough to buy groceries and pay the rent. She had no money to pay off her debts. When she couldn't afford the store, and her landlady threatened to raise the rent, Olya turned to the government and asked them to find her a job as a nurse. Quote, "I have a wealthy but very difficult family. A widower, a 10-year-old daughter, and a full house of servants. Elisa is bedridden, not paralyzed, but unable to walk. They don't know her diagnoses. If they like her, they'll pay her well. But her father is like that, you can't negotiate with him." With nothing to lose, Olga went to Zakhar Viktorovitch's huge house. He received her in his office. Olga handed over all her documents, showed her diploma from medical school, and also handed over a handwritten letter explaining the reason for her muteness but promising to work diligently. "So, you're writing here that your son died," she nodded. "You know, it's like we're on the same side of grief. My wife died of cancer 3 years ago. And Elisa, it seems, couldn't cope. She took to her bed, saying she felt a terrible pain inside. Her legs stopped working. It was also due to grief, but I don't know if that's true or not. Oncologists and surgeons examined her. Everything seemed clear. Before that, she was more or less fine, but for the past 2 months, she's been fading away, literally before our eyes. She has hives and some spots all over her body. The doctors say it's a severe allergic reaction. They've banned her from eating a lot of foods. They said if she doesn't follow a diet, she could die suddenly. There's no definitive diagnosis. So we suffer, we're being treated, and we're hoping. Let's give it a try." Olya moaned, pressing her hands to her chest, and nodded. Elisa was silent and calm. At 10, she seemed resigned to her fate and didn't want anything. Her father brought her toys, books, new gadgets, and she looked at them all indifferently, put them aside, and closed her eyes. She ate little by little, without appetite. She took her pills without aggression. Her father was ready to give her the world, to invite the best doctors here, but she didn't want anything. They had a constant conversation that tore at Zakhar Viktorovich's heart. "Daughter, does anything hurt?" "Everything inside hurts. From my fingertips to my throat, it burns like fire. When Mom died, that's when it started hurting. And if Mom were here, would it have been easier?" "I think so. She would have stroked my head, fed me something tasty, and everything would have been fine. She'll never come again." "No, Alice, never." "Well, that means I don't need anything." Zakhar Viktorovich fought hard, but his daughter didn't want to fight. Over the past month, her symptoms had started to worsen, and he began to think about transferring her to a private clinic. Zakhar went on a business trip but left early. And when he came home and saw what the new nurse was feeding his daughter, he couldn't contain himself. She was giving her borscht with red beef, stewed vegetables, and some kind of herbal infusion. Everything that could worsen the child's condition, and everything the doctor had forbidden. He was terribly afraid for Elisa. There was no doubt, so Olya was shown the door, and their contract ended immediately. Olya returned home the next day, crawled under the covers, and slept until the morning. She felt bitter, hurt, and her chest burned like a hot iron. In her dream, for the first time in several years, she saw Misha. He was walking along the edge of some cliff, jumping up and down. She tried to grab his hand, but it was impossible. Her son was silent, smiling, and then simply said, "Mom, don't worry, I'm fine. Save whoever you can. Elisa? You understand everything, right?" "I understand. Don't worry. Well, I have to go." "Mishka, wait." Quote. Olya screamed in her sleep and woke up from her own voice. It seemed it wasn't quite a dream. She screamed and cried. What a son she had. Wonderful, kind, handsome. Mishka. How could this all be? She whispered and stopped. Oh, how could this be? Speech returned. She burst into tears. She couldn't speak out loud. It was as if he needed more strength. But still, the ability itself returned. Olya was happy and heartbroken at the same time. She thought about her son, thought about the poor girl, and cried even more. She decided to spend a few days at home, and then go to the hospital, try to find a job again. She didn't make a good nurse, but she's a good one. Maybe they'll hire her back after all. That evening, sitting in the kitchen, she was drinking tea and leafing through an album with baby photos. Then the doorbell rang. Olya didn't want to open it, but the ringing insistently. She finally went to the door, looked through the peephole, gasped, and quickly turned the lock. Zakhar Viktorovich stood in the threshold. "Olga, hello. Sorry for the late visit, I needed to find you." "Hello. Why didn't you call? I called a million times. Your phone is turned off." "Oh, wait. Can you talk?" "Yes, my speech has returned. Can you imagine? The doctor said it could happen suddenly. And after you fired me, that's what happened. And that's exactly what I came to talk about. After you left us, Elisa, what's wrong?" "She's worse." "No, quite the opposite. Let me in." "Yes, come in. I'll make some tea now. Go to the kitchen." "Olga, last week, a couple of days after you left, Elisa had a full checkup and many of her indicators improved. Everything has improved. Do you understand? Tell me honestly, that whole month you were with us, were you secretly feeding her anything?" "Oh, my God, Zakhar Viktorovich, of course you were. She's so skinny, all eyes. What kind of allergies or food intolerances could she have?" "Of course, I fatten her up, and I pick the herbs myself in the summer, so I brewed them." "And how did you know it wasn't an allergy?" "I felt it. I worked as a nurse, I saw and heard a lot about how doctors communicate and how they make diagnoses. And they make mistakes too." "Are you saying our doctors made mistakes?" "No, I think they were just afraid of doing harm. Only you didn't understand, they were afraid to say, Elisa's soul hurts, her grief burns inside, do you understand? Longing for her mother, that's what makes her sick, not the vegetables or the meat." Quote, "Olga, if you had told me this a week ago, I wouldn't have even talked to you. But something happened in your absence. You remember, Elisa was always silent and indifferent. Well, yes, sad and devastated. And then you left. A couple of days later, she confessed to me that she missed Olya and that Olya cooks the same borscht and makes the same mashed potatoes as her mother. And she said that for the first time, being around you made her hurt less inside. She said it wasn't from the pills, but from your food. I understand. It seems she lacks warmth, that's why she's fading. The nervous system is a very fragile thing. I, like Misha, didn't become completely silent, but I was so worried about Elisa before I was even worried about myself. When I was kicked out, my voice came back. It's some kind of mysticism. Just life. And is this your son?" He looked at the photos in the open album. "Yes, Misha. It all happened somehow suddenly. She didn't have time to rejoice, talk, or hug. Everything was at work. She earned money for us, wanted to take him to the seaside, and then she didn't need anything else in life, she couldn't even talk. But when I saw your Elisa, I realized she was the same as me. I tried to talk to her, but it didn't work. I wanted to hug her, but I didn't have the courage. I just fed her the same way I once did my son. And it seems she sensed something." "Yes, I agree. And Elisa really asked me to bring you back. Will you agree?" "Probably yes. Especially since my son asked for it in a dream." "Wow. Well, then, we're done." "Okay, I'll pack my bag and let's go. When Olya entered the room, Elisa couldn't contain her joy. You're back? I missed you so much, you're back. Dad told me everything, and I came straight away. How are you feeling? Fine. I'm just hungry. Our cook made all sorts of things, but I don't want that. I'd like a cutlet and chicken noodles, like Mom used to make. That's what you used to make. Why are you giving away all our secrets? Quote. Olya smiled and looked guiltily at her host. He turned to the window so his daughter and the nurse wouldn't see his tears. He couldn't believe that Elisa's indifference had finally gone away, and that she was happy again, laughing, and wanting something, even if it was just noodles and mashed potatoes. His cook was a wonderful cook, but only Olya could cook like Mom's. Olga stayed in this house. She was more than just a nurse. Of course, she couldn't replace Elisa's deceased mother, but she could still give her the maternal warmth she'd needed all these years. And Olya had plenty of that. Misha was gone, but she remained a mother nonetheless, inconsolable, yet loving and genuine. Olya cared for Elisa as if she were her own. Zakhar, seeing what was happening to his daughter, considered it a miracle and Olga's sole credit. The doctors saw the girl's improvement and could only shrug their shoulders. She barely took any medication, yet she was visibly blossoming. One evening, Zakhar was working in his office and suddenly heard a scream from his daughter's room. Elisa and Olya were moving in, but he couldn't make out the words. He immediately rushed up to the second floor, opened the door, and froze. His beloved daughter, who had been bedridden for almost 4 years, was standing on her feet and slowly, holding on to something, taking steps. Olya, look. Great. You can do it. Daddy, look. Wow. He walked up to his daughter and hugged her. It seems the illness is going away. It turns out you can walk. Alice, you can do anything. Olya, it's all thanks to you. You saved our family. You saved me. If it weren't for you, I would still be living in my enormous grief, without a soul, and completely helpless. So, we need to celebrate. Dad, let's go to our favorite hotel in the mountains. You, me and Olya, Mom, Olya. The adults looked at Elisa in surprise and exchanged glances. We're not going to let her go anywhere, are we? We need Olya. Both me and you. Zakhar didn't answer, just smiled and looked at Olga, who, embarrassed, her eyes downcast, was silent. His daughter, still small, but already so insightful, suddenly said the very thing they, smart and sensible adults, hadn't dared to say to each other for a long time. They had felt it, but hadn't dared. Yes, they needed each other. Not only on vacation, but also in everyday life full of problems, fears, worries, happiness and joy. They had long felt and known it. They just did not dare to say it. If it were not for Elisa, they would have continued to remain silent, Zakhar said, smiling cheerfully. Olga, you, or rather you, do you agree to come with us to the mountains and stay to live with us forever, like Mom Elisa and like my wife? Quote. I agree, she whispered and hugged these two people who had become close to her. Swami agrees to everything. Well, shall we celebrate? The ring is on me later, Zakhar whispered in her ear and kissed her cheek. Sorry, I wasn't prepared. Olya just smiled. 6 months later they got married, and a year later they gave Elisa a little brother. If you like the story, please support me with the thumbs up button. For you, one simple action, but for me it is extremely important. Thank you in advance and all the best.